Thank you. The final item of business this evening is a members' business debate on motion 19085 in the name of Marie McNair on cholangiocarcinoma awareness. This debate will be concluded without any questions being put, and I would invite those members who would wish to speak in the debate to please press the request to speak buttons, and I call on Marie McNair to open the debate. Up to 7 minutes, please.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. I'm pleased to have secured this very important debate to raise awareness of cholangiocarcinoma to coincide with Liver Cancer Awareness Month. I'm delighted to have Anne and Derek Winter from my constituency of Clydebank and Milngavie in the chamber tonight, along with some supporters of the Alan Moorman Memorial Fund, AMMF. The Alan Moorman Memorial Fund is the only dedicated cholangiocarcinoma charity. I know Parliament will join me in giving a sincere welcome to Anne and Derek Winter from Milngavie and Benjamin Carey and Stuart Fimister, who are supporters of the AMMF. I would also like to thank my colleague Ben McPherson, MSP, for hosting an AMMF event in June of this year, calling for a fairer deal faster for people diagnosed with cholangiocarcinoma in Scotland. This was a great event and confirmed the importance of taking this issue to the Chamber. Presiding Officer, I wanted to hold this debate on behalf of my constituents Anne and Derek in memory of their beloved son Barry. Barry was born on the 31st of December 1970 and died of cholangiocarcinoma on the 8th of May 2008. Barry was a much-loved son, brother, husband, father and friend. He worked as a senior press officer in what was then the Scottish Executive. Barry had attended his GP for some time and had been diagnosed with irritable bowel syndrome. When he suddenly became very ill in April 2007, he was diagnosed with cholangiocarcinoma. He was told this was a condition which only affected older people. And sadly, Barry, who had only been married 2 years and had a 4-month-old baby daughter, was informed that his condition was, in fact, terminal. Barry died 11 months later, leaving a young widow and a child who had never experienced the love her father had for her. Since this time, my constituents have worked hard to raise awareness of this tragic disease, which is the second most common primary liver cancer in the world, also known as bile duct cancer. Cholangiocarcinoma causes few symptoms in its early stages, and those that do present tend to be quite vague, such as nausea and a loss of appetite. It is difficult to diagnose, this meaning it is often missed or managed too late. More worryingly, cholangiocarcinoma has amongst the worst survival rates of any cancer. I am thankful to AMMF for providing me with up-to-date figures, as I believe they provide important context. In 2021 to 2023, the age-standardised incident rate of cholangiocarcinoma in the population in Scotland was 6.18 per 100,000. In the last 20 years, the age-standardised incident rate has increased by over 62%. More concerningly, they have confirmed that the latest incident rates suggest that cholangiocarcinoma is no longer a rare cancer in Scotland. Typically, a cancer is considered rare if fewer than 6 in 100,000 people are diagnosed with it. This is worrying and highlights the importance of raising greater awareness of this disease and pushing for earlier detection. During the period 2020 to 2022, the age-standardised mortality rate for cholangiocarcinoma in Scotland was 6.21 per 100,000, and this all reflects the poor prognosis of cholangiocarcinoma. Presiding Officer, deprivation is also a factor. The age-standardised incidence of cholangiocarcinoma for the most socially economically deprived group has increased almost twice as much as for the least deprived. There also isn't a standard cholangiocarcinoma patient, with many not having a history of liver disease and their cancer often presenting without any clearly identifiable symptoms until its advanced stages. All of this is why I feel it's so important that we push forward with comprehensive molecular profiling tests for cholangiocarcinoma patients in Scotland. Molecular profiling, which is also known as molecular testing or genomic testing, is used to determine which gene faults may present in an individual tumour. This information can be used to select the most appropriate treatment options for cholangiocarcinoma patients. And according to AMMF, one of the tests currently provided by the NHS is only being temporarily funded and will expire by the end of 2025. Without this test, cholangiocarcinoma patients with IDH1 gene fault will not be identified and will be unable to access the SMC-approved treatment Ivosido, which can extend survival. I welcome that a comprehensive testing programme approved by NHS Scotland in 2023 would identify over 4 in 5 potentially treatable gene faults in cholangiocarcinoma patients, and hope to see this implemented as soon as possible. And this would stop the NHS in Scotland from missing opportunities to offer treatments and clinical trials for some cholangiocarcinoma patients, potentially extending their life with loved ones, which is the most important thing. I also welcome that the Minister for Public Health and Women's Health, Jenny Minto MSP, agreed to consider a business case for molecular profiling tests for cholangiocarcinoma. I'd be grateful if the Minister, in her closing speech, would be able to comment on this and advise whether the Scottish Government can expedite the process to ensure that comprehensive molecular profiling tests for cholangiocarcinoma patients in Scotland are implemented without delay. Presiding Officer, we owe so much to AMF for the supporters and my constituents, Anne and Derek, for their tireless campaigning. Benjamin, who I mentioned at the start of my speech and who is in the gallery today, was diagnosed in 2023, 6 months after being misdiagnosed with pancreatic cancer. And he is now travelling the world and is helping AMF to raise awareness in the Scottish Parliament of NHS patient inequalities. And I'm grateful for his work. It's up to us, though, as parliamentarians, to work with those affected and impacted and really listen to what they're asking for. Presiding Officer, I think it has to be a wake-up call for us all that this is no longer considered a rare cancer, and we must urgently raise awareness of the symptoms and, crucially, push ahead with molecular profiling to ensure that those who are diagnosed with cholangiocarcinoma receive timely and appropriate care, better outcomes and, crucially, more time with their loved ones. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms McNair. We will now move to the open debate. Backbench speeches of up to 4 minutes. I call Elena Whittam to be followed by Sandesh Gohani. Ms Whittam.
Thank you, Deputy Presiding Officer. Having lost a much-loved family member to aggressive liver cancer at the start of the year, just as he entered his 60s, I thank Marie McNair for securing this debate. She has my strong support as we recognise October 2025 as Liver Cancer Awareness Month, and in particular as we shine a light on cholangiocarcinoma, which is the second most common primary liver cancer worldwide. Cholangiocarcinoma, or CCA, is a condition that far too many people have ever heard of. I mean, how many people in here actually ever think of their bile duct? And yet its impact on those who are diagnosed and on their families is absolutely devastating. One of the greatest challenges with CCA, as we've heard, is it tends to hide in plain sight. In its early stages, it rarely presents with clear or specific symptoms. People might experience fatigue, nausea or a loss of appetite, symptoms that could easily be mistaken for minor or unrelated conditions. And as a result, by the time most people receive a diagnosis, the cancer has already progressed to a stage where treatment options are limited. That delay in diagnosis contributes to what is, tragically, one of the poorest survival rates of any cancer. And it is precisely for that reason that raising awareness amongst both the public and healthcare professionals themselves is so critical. And I too want to take a moment to recognise the incredible work being done by AMF, the UK's only charity dedicated solely to CCA. AMF provides vital information and support to patients and their loved ones, funds groundbreaking research and works tirelessly to ensure that CCA is no longer a cancer that slips under the radar. Their commitment is nothing short of inspiring, and I know that colleagues across the Chamber will join me in thanking them for everything that they do. Deputy Presiding Officer, while CCA is most common in people over the age of 60, it's deeply concerning that we are now seeing an increase in the cases amongst younger people. The reasons for this trend are rightly and urgently being investigated, but it reminds us that cancer does not discriminate by age, background or lifestyle. We must ensure that awareness-raising campaigns, screening tools and support networks reflect that reality. Early detection saves lives. We know that across many cancers. And for CCA, where early symptoms are so subtle, our best opportunity lies in science, in research, innovation and access to genomic testing. In 2023, NHS Scotland approved a comprehensive genomic testing programme, a decision that represents a real step forward in cancer care. If fully implemented, this programme could identify more than 4 in 5 of the potentially treatable gene faults that in CCA patients. And that's not just a statistic, that's hope. It is the hope that personalised medicine, the ability to tailor treatment to the individual genetic makeup of a tumour, can offer people more time, better quality of life and a genuine chance at recovery. And I urge the Scottish Government and the NHS boards to continue prioritising the rollout of this programme, ensuring equitable access for all patients across Scotland, regardless of postcode or circumstance. But we cannot leave it to science alone. We must work hand in hand with charities, researchers, clinicians, and most importantly, those with lived experience. Charities such as AMMF and Cancer Research UK and the British Liver Trust play an essential role in not only funding research, but also breaking down the stigma and the silence that can so often surround liver diseases. Their campaigns throughout Liver Cancer Awareness Month bring colour, compassion and community to an issue that can otherwise feel isolating and bleak. And we know that as a family, just how stigma actually can affect individuals dealing with such cancers. Awareness is not a small thing. It is the first step towards earlier diagnosis, fairer treatment and better outcomes. And we must do all that we can to ensure that people recognise the early warning signs, that GPs and clinicians have the tools and the training they need to spot CCA sooner, and that those affected are met with understanding and support rather than confusion and delay. And finally, as we mark Liver Cancer Awareness Month, let us recommit ourselves collectively to shining a light on this rare and often, although as we heard from Marie McNair, it's not as rare as it once was, but it still is an often misunderstood disease. We need to back the charities, the scientists and the families who refuse to give up. And let's ensure that no one in Scotland faces CCA in silence or without hope.
Thank you, Ms Whittam. I call Dr Sandesh Gohani to be followed by Carol Mochan. Dr Gohani, who's joining us remotely.
Thank you, Deputy Presiding Officer, and a declaration of interest as a practising NHS GP. I want to begin by congratulating Marie McNair for securing this members' business debate and for raising vital awareness of cholangiocarcinoma, bile duct cancer. For GPs, this is one of the most challenging diseases to detect. The symptoms are subtle, often non-specific, a bit of nausea, fatigue, loss of appetite, some discomfort under the ribs, signs that could be almost anything. Sadly, by the time these symptoms add up to something more concerning, it's often too late for curative treatment. The motion before us recognises Liver Cancer Awareness Month and draws attention to the shocking fact that cholangiocarcinoma has one of the poorest survival rates of any cancer. It is most often affecting people over 60, but unfortunately, we're seeing it appear in younger patients too. As a GP, I know full well that early diagnosis saves lives, but early diagnosis requires the right tools and systems. And that's why today's debate matters so much. The old saying goes, prevention is better than cure, but for cancers like cholangiocarcinoma, where prevention is difficult, precise medicine gives us our best chance to improve outcomes. No two tumours are the same. Each one carries its own genetic fingerprint, influencing how it grows and how it responds to treatment. Through molecular profiling, basically analysing the tumour DNA, doctors can identify specific mutations and increasingly target them with precision therapies. This isn't science fiction, it's already changing lives. For example, changes in certain genes called IDH1 and FGFR2 are found in 1 in 7 people with this type of bile duct cancer. And the good news is that there's now a drug labelled pemazurin, which is designed to target these specific changes. It's the first treatment made specifically for this cancer, and it's already approved for patients in England and Wales. For those who are eligible, it offers real hope, the chance of a longer and better quality life than chemotherapy alone can provide. But in Scotland, access to such treatment depends on the implementation of a comprehensive genomic testing programme. That programme was approved by NHS Scotland in 2023, but it's yet to be fully funded and embed into clinical practice. Implementing this test would allow more patients with cholangiocarcinoma to benefit from life-extending targeted therapies. It would also strengthen our cancer intelligence, ensuring that we understand who might benefit from most emerging treatments, which are very expensive. The UK's only charity dedicated solely to cholangiocarcinoma, AMMF, has led the way in supporting research, raising awareness and patient support. Their advocacy reminds us that while cholangiocarcinoma is rare, its impact is profound and that patients deserve equitable access to modern, evidence-based care. Deputy Presiding Officer, Scotland has a proud record in medical innovation. We are among the first to embrace precision oncology and other cancers. Now, we must do the same here. By funding and implementing the genomic testing programme already approved, we can give clinicians the tools to act earlier, treat smarter, and give patients and their families something invaluable: hope. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr Gohani. I now call Cara Mockin to be followed by Jeremy Balfour. Ms Mockin.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. And I would also like to thank Marie McNair for bringing this debate to the Chamber. And can I also thank AMMF for all the work that they do in supporting research on cholangiocarcinoma, raising awareness and supporting those who have been diagnosed. Their campaign and Marie McNair's calls to ensure the funding for testing is so important, and I do look forward to the Minister's response on that. Often documented as rare, I was really interested in Marie McNair's speech and her points in this moving reality, and I hadn't picked that up, so I'm really glad to be in the debate tonight. But we do know that bile duct cancer is aggressive and on the rise, and it's considered to be the second most common primary liver cancer in the world. Incident rates, as we've heard from others, are higher in Scotland, and we must consider that and seek to see why that is and what we can do. I know today's debate will really help highlight the causes and risk factors, as well as increasing awareness, and that is why it's so important that debates like this are brought forward. And Marie McNair is really excellent at doing that with her members' business. We have already heard tonight that timely diagnosis and treatment are crucial. We also know that the diagnosis of bile duct cancer can often come late, resulting in poorer outcomes. At this stage, I want to just highlight, as I often do, health inequalities, which others have mentioned. We know people in more deprived areas have a higher rate of preventable cancers and are more likely to be diagnosed at a later stage. So I think it's so important when we're speaking about bile duct cancer, which tends to be diagnosed at a late stage, we really have this in our minds. When we talk about cancer in this chamber, we must always seek to find ways to ensure that this cancer inequality gap is closed. And I know that the Minister does speak about this in the chamber, and she might mention this again in her closing speech. As we've heard in today's motion, bile duct cancer symptoms are difficult to spot, particularly at that early stage. The risk factors are largely unknown, and it is believed that a combination of factors, including other illnesses that cause chronic damage to the liver and/or bile ducts, is likely to be the cause of the bile duct cancers. While most common in people over the age of 60, the cancer is increasing across all age groups, including amongst younger people, which only emphasises the need to increase public awareness of symptoms, risk factors and treatment options. While there is no guaranteed way to avoid bile duct cancer, people can take proactive steps to reduce their chances to develop the disease. And when we were researching this, we looked at NHS Inform, and it suggested things, healthy lifestyle factors like quitting smoking, which would also have positive impacts on people's health. We know that smoking is still a leading and silent killer, and by reducing smoking rates across Scotland, people's healthy lifestyles and outcomes improve. So it's really important that we commit in this Parliament to funding for things such as smoking cessation and other health improvement measures. One of the things which also came to light in the link to liver damage is the look at alcohol intake, minimising exposure to hepatitis B and hepatitis C viruses. And if we can do that, it will help with this cancer, we think, and others. Scotland's relationship with alcohol and its culture of binge drinking, we know in this chamber, is something that we should give more focus on. Targeted interventions should be taken to lower excessive drinking rates in Scotland. This will not only reduce people's chances of developing cancers such as this, but other diseases. I want to just conclude by saying again that I really appreciate Marie McNair bringing this to the Chamber. Awareness of this condition is so important, and I know that the Minister will give us a good response later this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Vaughan. I now call Jeremy Balfour to be followed by Jackie Dunbar. Mr Balfour.
Thank you, Deputy Presiding Officer. And again, can I add my congratulations and thanking Mary McNair for bringing forward this debate. I have to confess, I knew nothing about this cancer. I've learned a lot, even this evening, listened to other members. But the reason that I am speaking in this debate is because one of my constituents emailed me and asked if I would tell her story briefly tonight. And so it's my honour and privilege to do that. She writes this: I hadn't heard of it until it changed the course of my family's life in 2023. My beloved mum, Valerie, was diagnosed with it in April 2023 after feeling a pain in her side. I couldn't begin to put into words how shocked and devastated we were when she was diagnosed with terminal cancer after minimal symptoms and still being at work up until very close to the diagnosis. The worst thing was being told that there was absolutely nothing they could do, despite symptoms only showing a few days before she went to see the doctor. From there, things escalated at a terrifying pace. Mum passed away just 33 days after her diagnosis, aged just 63. I went from everything being fine to planning a funeral for my mum at the age of 25, only after 33 days later. I'm sure everyone would want to pass on their best regards and sympathy to my constituent. Sadly, her story is not unique. It is a story that other people have told me since hearing about this debate. As other people have said, it is very difficult to diagnose, and even when diagnosed, is very difficult to treat. I think we all agree that we need specialised research into this cancer. We need to find ways of finding an earlier diagnosis. We need to find effective treatment to deal with this horrible disease. This is a cancer that does, as others said, affect more people who are perhaps older, but is becoming more common in younger people as well. Now, I fully understand there are budgetary pressures on every government, and at almost every member's debate, we will stand up and say, could you find more money to fund this? But I would genuinely ask, on behalf of my constituent and on behalf of all those who have gone through this, that money could be found to put into specialised research so that we can give hope to those that will come in the future. Thank you, Deputy Presiding Officer.
Thank you, Mr Balfour. And I call Jackie Dunbar. Mr Dunbar.
Thank you, Presiding Officer, and can I first of all thank my friend and colleague Marie McNair for securing her debate this evening. Cholangiocarcinoma Awareness to Chamber to recognise that October is Liver Cancer Awareness Month, a cancer that sadly seems to be increasing. It wasn't until my colleague submitted the motion did I realise that there is more than one type of liver cancer. It was something I just didn't know or was aware of, and I think that is why it is so important that members' motions are brought to the Chamber so that it not only educates other MSPs but also raises awareness within the public. Now, last speaker of the debate, presiding officer, and I had written down, I'm probably going to repeat facts, but the truth is I am going to repeat probably everything that everybody's already said this evening. But when it comes to a subject as important as folks' health and raising awareness, I'm not going to apologise for repeating something like this, because repeating it is not a bad thing. Cholangiocarcinoma is also known as bile duct cancer, and it seems to be increasing across all age groups, not just the over 60s. And still, most folk, like me, have never heard of it. Yet it has the worst survival rates of any cancer. And with this in mind, and with this month being Liver Cancer Awareness Month, let's change this. Let's get the message out. Although cholangiocarcinoma, or bile duct cancer, is considered rare worldwide, it is the second most common primary liver cancer. It's difficult to not only diagnose accurately, but also difficult to diagnose early. So by the time it does get diagnosed, it is often too advanced for surgery, which is currently the only potential cure. So why is it difficult to diagnose it early? Well, the early symptoms of it are very vague. Nausea and appetite loss are two of the symptoms. But let's be honest, whose first thought would be to go and get it checked if that was their only symptoms? I know my first thought would be that I'd eaten something dodgy or had some sort of bug. In later stages, symptoms can include jaundice, yellowing of the skin and the whites of the eyes, itchy skin, pale stools, dark-coloured urine, and unintentional weight loss, and also abdominal pain. So can I please urge folk to speak to their GP if they have any of these signs or are worried about any of the symptoms? While it is unlikely that they will have bile duct cancer, it is best to just go get it checked. Presiding officer, I am aware that the Scottish Government are committed to raising awareness of possible cancer symptoms through their primary care cancer education platform, Gateway C, and I know it provides tools to support early diagnosis efforts and decision-making at the point of referral. I am also aware that they have previously recognised that significant work was needed to develop the genomic testing needed. So I'd really appreciate it if, when the Minister could give an update on the work that has been undertaken with this, if at all possible. Presiding officer, can I once again thank Marie McNair for bringing this debate to Chamber this evening, and I and others look forward to hearing from the Minister in her reply. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Barr. And I now call on Minister Jenny Minto to respond to the debate. Up to 7 minutes, please.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. I too would like to thank my colleague Marie McNair for bringing this motion to the Chamber and welcome the opportunity to close today's debate on cholangiocarcinoma. I also wish to acknowledge the valuable contributions my colleagues have shared in the Chamber tonight, especially as this is Liver Cancer Awareness Month. Even though it is estimated that 1 in 2 people will develop cancer in their lifetime, the reality of receiving a diagnosis of cancer can still come as a complete shock, especially for the rarer cancers like cholangiocarcinoma. Liver cancers continue to have a devastating impact on far too many individuals and families across Scotland. As you will be aware, the Scottish Government published our ambitious 10-year cancer strategy in June 2023, and we remain determined to improve cancer survival rates and provide excellent and equitable care for all people facing cancer. At the fore of this strategy is a dedicated focus on the less survivable cancers, including liver cancer, and improving outcomes for people affected. Earlier this year, I had the privilege of speaking at the Rethink Liver Cancer reception hosted by AMMF and sponsored by my colleague Ben Macpherson, MSP. I would like to, as others have done, to welcome Benjamin Carey to the public gallery this evening, but also Anne and Derek. It was a deeply moving experience to meet those and families affected by cholangiocarcinoma, and to hear firsthand about the challenges that they face. And I'd also like to thank Jeremy Balfour for sharing his constituents' experience, and please pass on my thoughts to his constituent, as I'm sure everybody else in the chamber will do too. Cholangiocarcinoma is a lesser-known and rarer cancer, and so taking the opportunity in chamber today to raise awareness of its common symptoms is vital to improving outcomes, and I'm very thankful to my colleagues who have done that so eloquently. We all know that the sooner cancer is detected and diagnosed, the better the outcomes for the individual. Our earlier cancer diagnosis vision underpins our investment in a range of programmes aimed at supporting earlier diagnosis and ensuring people receive timely and effective care. Our Detect Cancer Earlier programme, Be the Early Bird campaign continues, with the latest campaign launched last month. This encourages individuals aged 40 and over, particularly those in the more deprived communities, to feel confident in seeking help for possible cancer symptoms. As Carol Mochan has stated, we need to ensure we consider all groups in our society to avoid inequalities. In August this year, we published the refreshed Scottish Referral Guidelines for Suspected Cancer. These guidelines are designed to support primary care clinicians in recognising symptoms that may indicate cancer and ensure that people are on the right pathways at the right time. For the first time, the guidelines include criteria for non-specific symptoms. This update is especially important for rare or lesser-known cancers like cholangiocarcinoma, where earlier signs such as unexplained nausea and weight loss can be subtle and easily missed, symptoms hiding in plain sight, as Elena Whittam described. We also launched Scotland's 6th Rapid Cancer Diagnosis Service this year. These services are ruling cancer in or out faster for those with non-specific symptoms. Additionally, a primary care cancer education platform, Gateway C, was launched in April 2024 across NHS Scotland. Gateway C provides innovative and tailored information to support earlier cancer diagnosis efforts and enable effective decision-making. This free online platform is accessible to all primary care clinicians and includes information about liver cancers. The Scottish Government has provided over £14 million of cancer waiting time funds in 25-26 across NHS Scotland, directed towards the most challenged pathways. We've also committed to additional funding for chemotherapy services, reaching up to £10 million per annum by 2027, with £6.6 million provided in 25-26. By continuing to invest in cancer services and by reducing waiting times, we will detect cancer earlier and faster so we can improve the outcomes for people. We've commissioned the Scottish HPB network to lead the development of standardised pathways for hepatopancreobiliary cancers. This work has been carried out in collaboration with the Scottish Cancer Network, the Centre for Sustainable Delivery and third sector partners, reviewing existing clinical guidelines, identifying gaps and aligning best practice across Scotland. Tumour subtypes such as bile duct cancers will be included. This work is progressing at pace, and we expect them to work with the Centre for Sustainable Delivery, who separately will be delivering the optimal diagnostic pathway for upper GI cancers, including HPV in 2026. Now, I understand the importance of expanded genomic testing for people with cholangiocarcinoma and its direct impact on their care and access to life-saving precision medicines. That was made very clear to me at the event in Parliament earlier this year. You will be aware that there is a wider programme of laboratory transformation and investment planning underway to support a sustainable expansion of genomic testing. This is part of our long-term approach to deliver bold and ambitious action to reform and renew our health and care systems in Scotland. However, recognising the importance of this test to cholangiocarcinoma patients and their families, I have asked NHS National Services Division, as Commissioners of Genomic Testing, to bring this testing into service ahead of the wider reform programme. Implementation planning is now progressing rapidly within the service, and I will be able to provide members with an update before the end of this year. While I know the impact of any further delay, please be assured that we are doing all that we can to bring this testing to the people who need it as quickly as possible. I would like to give my sincere thanks to those providing valuable information, help and support to anyone affected by cholangiocarcinoma and liver cancer. Our NHS and Scottish Government continue to work closely with the third sector, community and social care partners to deliver an ambitious cancer strategy. We know that research is key to advancing how we prevent, diagnose and treat all forms of cancer, and that is of particular importance to cholangiocarcinoma. I want to take this opportunity to recognise the significant investment made by AMMF in both international and UK research institutions to fund research teams working to uncover the causes of cholangiocarcinoma, improve early diagnosis and develop more effective treatments. This includes nearly £150,000 invested in Scottish institutions to fund cholangiocarcinoma-specific research, such as the trial many of us have heard about today happening in Glasgow. I'm pleased to learn that some patients have benefited from this trial, and it further reinforces our commitment to expanding genomic testing across Scotland, as I mentioned earlier. I'd like to conclude by saying and extending my thanks to all third sector organisations, including AMMF, for supporting patients and families affected by cholangiocarcinoma, and to members tonight for their contributions. I look forward to working with you all to improve awareness, earlier diagnosis and outcomes for those facing less survivable cancers, such as cholangiocarcinoma, and give them hope. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. That concludes the debate, and I close this meeting.